is now 8:30, and good Wednesday morning. This is the WLBB Community Voice here on News Talk 1330, FM 106.3, streaming live online at newstalk1330.com. And this morning we are on the News Talk 1330 WLBB Facebook page. My name's Colin Worthington. My guests are with the Carrollton Police Department. So they're with the ACE unit in particular. Sitting to my left is Colonel Kyle Jones, and sitting to my right is my good pal and contact with West Virginia. We'll talk about that, how that happened a little bit more in the program. Sergeant Chad Taylor. Good morning to both you guys.
Good morning.
And Kyle, don't be scared to get close to that mic.
Thank you. Hello.
We had the 10-minute introduction to the how to talk on the microphone before the show. Guys, thanks for coming out.
Thanks for having us.
There was a story that I talked with Kyle about a week ago. I think it was last Monday is when he said be on the lookout for this, and he just thought it might be a good time to kind of revisit what exactly you guys do. The story in particular had to do with a gang member and the fact that they're kind of doing some different things right now to make some money. It sounds like they're this might have been something more intelligent or more thoughtful than what we're typically used to seeing out of local gangs. First of all, let's talk about the ACE unit. That's Aggressive Criminal Enforcement Unit. Is that just Carrollton Police, or is it bringing some Carroll County investigators as well, GBI?
No, it's that's one thing that's unique about Carroll County's the relationships that are shared by the department heads. So we have the ACE unit itself is the City of Carrollton, the Carroll County Sheriff's Office, and we have an attachment from the college. So it covers the entire county plus the university. We mainly focus on gangs, narcotics, and violent crimes. Gangs and narcotics being our primary focus, and violent crimes definitely are an offshoot of that. So that is, most of our guys also are tactically driven. So we do a lot of high-risk warrant service. We play support roles for other agencies around, up to Bremen, Whitesburg, wherever we can help lend a hand in investigations.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, Kyle. It's the first time you've been on this program, and good to see you. But yeah, give us your background. Tell me why you became an officer. Why'd you want to become a cop?
Well, I think for me it started when I was about 5. I went to Carrollton City Schools my whole career, and I remember about 5 years old in kindergarten seeing the officers come and talk, and then on up into 5th grade, Michael Mansour was my dare officer, so that. No, dating him a little bit, but no, I just remember being a young kid and just seeing the police officers and the fire trucks when they would come to school, and just always having that desire to want to work in public safety. I've done several, a few different things in public safety, but law enforcement was always my main goal, even as a kid, and was able to, thankfully, was blessed with the opportunity to get hired on here. So.
And that's kind of the story I expected to hear out of you. I just wonder over the last 2 years, with all the news and police involved in the news, are you guys seeing that maybe that excitement and that love for the job is not there as much, or maybe there's more people fearful of getting into it?
Maybe for people that are already in it. I think for us, I know for me and Chad, speaking for us and the guys that we work with, this is a calling, I feel like, for us. This is what I feel like I was, made or born to do. So, it sucks. You see things in the news and when police officers make mistakes and high-profile incidents, but, this is the job I feel called to do and we feel called to do. And so, that's kind of I don't feel like that can really be persuaded one way or the other from the media or the negative, the negative things from those incidents. So
good. I don't think I've heard anybody say that last sentence. I think that's great. So you've been in West Georgia your whole life?
Yeah, I've lived in Carroll County my whole life. And
Chad, a native Tallapoosean.
That's correct.
Lives in Bremen now, but Haralson County your whole life. How about you? What motivated you to want to be a cop?
I think just being in the service of people. If I'm 100% honest, I enjoy people. I've got a passion for kids. I'll enjoy coaching at an early age, playing sports into coaching. Now it's moved into at-risk youth. I think that was our drive to in the gangs, is to really figure out the why. I never really could understand why when you're presented two options that end in prison or death. What persuades kids to make those choices? So I would say it's definitely to serve, but also to serve in maybe persuading youth to make better choices.
I think anybody who's listened to the show or maybe knows me knows that I grew up in West Virginia, a big Mountaineer fan, and I've known Chad for 6, 7, 8 years, and then maybe like 2, 3 years ago learned that your daughter, actually she goes to West Virginia University, but closer to actually the town. It's in the southern part, but it's close to the town that I grew up. I mean, I basically used to run those streets, and but she's actually doing really good.
Yes, she is. She actually lives in your hometown, I believe, in Beckley. So she lives there, plays basketball at West Virginia Tech, and has done really well. But that's been my Colin connection. He's introduced me to all the cool spots and great eateries in Beckley, West Virginia.
That never happens with the small towns like that, but she's already got plans after college too, right?
She does. For now, she's been tentatively offered a job with the Navy. So she's in the process for that upon graduation.
Very cool.
Fantastic opportunity for her.
Congratulations on that. Very
Thank you.
cool. All right. Again, our guest this morning, Corporal Kyle Jones and Sergeant Chad Taylor with the ACE unit, both with the Carrollton Police Department, primarily focus on drugs, violent crimes, and dealing with gangs. Let's start from the scratch. How many alleged gangs do we believe? And I know there's also little groups that break off and things. I mean, just and maybe just to scare people or make them pay attention to how many gangs are out there. How many groups can you consider are a gang living in Carrollton?
I would say for our documentation purposes, we have now we're over 200, probably moving towards the 250 range of gang members that we have documented. I would say at any given time that actively we're probably investigating 5 to 6 gangs or subsets. I think we're documented now at about 16 total that we've dealt with in the city of Carrollton, and that ranges from national level gangs, whether you've Bloods, Crips, Gangster Disciples, to subsets of those. And I think we'll talk a little bit about those. I think Kyle's going to talk a little bit about some of the subsets, like with the Crips. They may be a Crip, but they can be an 8-tray or a Grape Street or a Playboy Gangster Crip, all the way down to your local hybrid gangs. I would say local hybrid gangs, they in the past have dominated a lot of our time. Those will be your youth. They may not have a national alliance to the Crips or Bloods, whatever, but they'll be neighborhood based. In the past we've talked about YGG and YSN, and I know you guys have ran some stories about some different high profile cases, all the way to from thefts to murders to drive-bys, you name it. But
I think up until about a year and a half ago, a lot of people just didn't believe that there were gangs in our community. What are the ages? I mean, how young are we seeing kids get into these gangs?
We've, and I know I talk about it in the Citizens Academy, we've had kids as young as 12 and 13 years old commit offenses with gang ties.
What do we see kids or gang members in multiple gangs? I mean, are there? So
I would not say multiple gangs. They may have multiple, more than one allegiance. Being, they may be you may have 2 brothers, for example, and that kind of spins off into the hybrid gangs. You may have 2 brothers that get in trouble early on. They may go into a youth center, and one be a Blood and one be a Crip. When they come out, they're not going to hate each other. That's when you find these spins that become hybrid gangs. They may represent multiple different, they may be 2 different subsets, both be Crips, but 2 different subsets, and they form their gang. We may be the West Center Street Boys, something along those lines. Whatever you decide, because of geographic, or could be school driven, could be neighborhood driven, could be jail driven. Those are your 3 greatest recruiting.
Well, when I hear you say like West Center Street Boys, I mean, I think about I grew up on Forest Lane, and 6 or 7 of us played football, and we called ourselves the Forest Lane Bombardiers or something like that. Yeah. But I mean, what is considered a gang? How is it determined that it is a gang?
So it's the criminal aspect. If you read the code section, it's criminal street gang. And it defines it like we've talked about, 3 or more by same symbol, sign, moniker, color, and everybody relates to the bandanas. That's one thing historically that's kind of stayed traditional. But it's not that. I mean, it's the criminal aspect. If they commit crimes under that moniker, if they commit crimes in furtherance of, or to raise their status in that gang, because gangs, they do. Their currency is violence and street cred. It truly is.
You had mentioned the documentation of gang members in Carrollton, and we did talk about this maybe about 6-7 months ago. I mean, go ahead and revisit that. How do you guys document them? Do they have to have committed a crime to be documented and I guess beyond being watched?
Not always. That helps. Now, for you to be a documented gang member, we have a process in place. We don't get to just decide, all right, today Colin's the guy. He's so there has to be a series of events that take place. But you can be an associate if, let's say, there's a series of crimes and we've got 3 documented gang members that keep coming up as suspects, and there's always this one guy that's with them, but we don't have him documented. We don't have him listed with a Crip set. We don't have social media. We don't have those things that really lock him in. We may lock him in as an associate because he's had multiple incidents and he's been listed as a suspect in multiple crimes. We have a database. We may plug it in just so we can save the information and say, all right, well, we know this guy has been seen with these guys 3 or 4 times. He's an associate. We know these guys are Crips, whether they were validated when they came out of prison or jail or whatever it was, or they were documented early on.
Why pick Carrollton? I mean, I look at Haralson County, and I mean, I wouldn't suspect there's many gangs. There could be. I could be wrong. I mean, maybe even Heard County or Coweta. Why Carrollton? Why is that? Why are we seeing that here?
A lot of these kids grew up here. Mm-hmm. This is home. They go to school here. There's the population here is fairly large. Plus, it's got an easy proximity to Atlanta. It's a 45-minute drive to Atlanta, and we've got a pretty decent nightlife scene, and that matches that age group with the college. The college runs 12 to 15,000 students, and if you're from Atlanta and in that atmosphere, it's an easy drive to make it out here.
I guess as far as stopping that, is the best hope to talk with these kids and these youth? I mean, when they're a lot younger, is that the best way to, hopefully stop things before they do happen, or is it just going to?
Yes, I think that is. I don't see a better way. Mm-hmm. I think the best way to curb it is to cut it off early, and I think we've taken the steps with education. We're educating other officers. I know the school systems locally. Now we have an SRO in every school. That's real time information. These officers know these kids first name basis. They know who their parents are. They know where they live, and there's some early intervention. If you see a kid start to sway, that's one thing I think our SROs take great pride in is really early, maybe finding mama or finding daddy and saying, hey, you need to know this is going on, mm-hmm. and try to curve that really, really quickly. Maybe even in middle school. How
about mom and dad reaching out to you guys? Is that a safe thing to do if they say they suspect something with their own kid and
yes,
they want you guys to talk to them?
That is not uncommon.
Yeah.
And really, we can show you what the end result of that is, because a lot of times that's what people see us as. By the time we're involved, they see the end result. Mm-hmm. They see us showing up after a drive-by. They show us taking someone to jail. They don't see the work early on where we get to really steer a kid in the right direction.
Sergeant Chad Taylor and Corporal Kyle Jones, we promise, is going to talk a lot more in the next segment, both with the ACE unit and the Carrollton Police Department. We're going to take our first break. Time right now is 8:44. Community Voice brought to you by Tanner Health System and Oak Mountain Academy on News Talk 1330 FM 106.3.
Health is a journey. It's making better choices, even when it's not easy. It's taking care of yourself and the people you love. At Tanner Health System, we're there for you with every step, with primary care, heart care, cancer care, women's care, orthopedics, surgical services, and so much more. We're dedicated to helping you live and feel your best. So let's get on that journey to health. You've got places to be for many years to come. Find us at tanner.org.
As a graduate of Oak Mountain Academy, I've found that my experience on the mountain prepared me beyond all expectations. As a junior at Auburn University, I approached my studies with great confidence thanks to what I learned at OMA. When I think back on my time on the mountain, I think of my teachers. Their genuine love and concern for me as a student was always evident, and now, as an adult, I still foster those relationships. I'm Carly Robinson, an Oak Mountain Academy alum. Visit oakmountain.us to see how you can offer your child an amazing opportunity to be a warrior.
Time right now is 8:45. Welcome back to the WLBB Community Voice here on News Talk 1330 FM 106.3. Also streaming live online at newstalk1330.com. And on the News Talk 1330 WLBB Facebook page this morning, you can see my guests, Sergeant Chad Taylor, Corporal Kyle Jones, both with the ACE unit and with the Carrollton Police Department. Denise Fowler says she is thankful for our LEOs. And Austin Harper said, hello.
Hello.
And again, any questions or comments you guys want to put up there, I'll take a peek during our next break and share those with our guests. As I said early on in the show, I talked to Kyle last week about a case which was unique. I guess it showed a different angle for a way of making money for some local gangs in an arrest, and I believe it led to a 52-count indictment. Mm-hmm. And I guess on just looking at it, you may not see how it's related to gang activity, but those charges were part of that indictment. I guess take us back to when this started. It may have started back in January, right?
Right. So this one started back in January. This investigation, or the actual crime, started being committed here in Carroll County. This particular guy, he had been doing this all over Metro Atlanta, but as far as Carroll County goes and Carrollton City, this started in January. But like you said, the majority of the time, our gang charges come from drug trafficking, weapons possession, use of weapons during certain crimes. So those are what's most common for us. But if you think of, like Chad was talking about earlier, gangs it's a criminal organization. So it's the criminal aspect that makes a criminal street gang. So it's not illegal just to be in a gang, but when you engage in criminal gang activity, it becomes illegal. And if you think of them as criminal organizations, that's how we go about it. We have to target the crime, and if we find that association, that membership with a certain gang, and prove that crime is gang motivated, then we bring about gang charges. So this particular one was a gentleman. He was staying out here locally. We believe in some
from Conyers maybe or something.
I believe he's from Conyers is his actual listed address, but he had been staying out here for a few months, from what we know. And his particular crime for the subset of Crips that he was a part of, which was Grape Street Crips, his job for that gang, from our investigation, was forgeries, frauds, and obtaining controlled substances by doing those forgeries and fraud. Specifically, the promethazine codeine syrup. That's a controlled substance. He was using 3 different doctors' names. Fake prescriptions, printing his own prescriptions using their DEA numbers, fictitious patient information, to obtain several dozens of bottles over the course of several months, mainly at CVS here in town. And he was actually arrested in April in the act while he was at Walgreens here in Carrollton. And he through that investigation, we uncovered, working with my partner Kelly Bennett, he investigated that particular one. I investigated the ones at CVS that he had already done. But he was caught with several prescriptions and large amount of money and drugs. And then we, through that investigation, learned those gang ties and how that correlated with his position, his status within the gang, those particular charges.
How easy was it for him to do that? To produce these prescriptions and the signature, and
he's a smart guy. I'll give him that. I'm not that computer savvy, but he obviously was, because he was reproducing these prescriptions, and several of the pharmacies were taking them. If you're able to go in a pharmacy several times, throughout a week and pass these at different pharmacies, you're smarter than the average, criminal, yeah. Right? So he was pretty smart. But he was reproducing them using a computer, printing these off and going in and delivering them, getting them refilled over and over, using different people's names. His downfall was the phone number.
But he put on all the prescriptions. He put the same phone number. He used different names and different doctors, but used the same phone number, so that helped you guys.
That definitely helped.
They were using that recreationally. They weren't reselling those or anything like that.
No, we believe he was distributing them.
Oh yeah, it's called. I think the street name is like Grape Drink or Grape Drunk or something like that.
Yeah, Lean is the common name that we hear for it.
Yeah, we're gonna take our final break right now and continue our conversation with these 2 fine young gentlemen from the ACE unit, Corporal Kyle Jones to my left and Sergeant Chad Taylor on my right. Community Voice brought to you by Tanner Health System, Oak Mountain Academy on News Talk 1330 FM 106.3.
Health is a journey. It's making better choices, even when it's not easy. It's taking care of yourself and the people you love. At Tanner Health System, we're there for you with every step, with primary care, heart care, cancer care, women's care, orthopedics, surgical services, and so much more. We're dedicated to helping you live and feel your best. So let's get on that journey to health. You've got places to be for many years to come. Find us at tanner.org.
At Oak Mountain Academy, our daily schedule includes convocation, prayer, and the Pledge of Allegiance. By doing so, we build a family-like community where all students grow and flourish and personal faith is encouraged. Through community service and a historical approach to biblical study, our students are taught the value of the warrior way, honesty, respect, and responsibility. Oak Mountain Academy. We are a family creating legacies. To learn more, visit oakmountain.us.
8:51. Welcome back to the WLBB Community Voice here on News Talk 1330 FM 106.3. I'm your host this morning, Colin Worthington. Again, we're on the News Talk 1330 WLBB Facebook page. I've got about 8 minutes left in the show. If you post something up there, I'll try and make sure to get a chance to look at it and share it. Do have a post from a lady named Bridget Cordell Todd. She says, very informative. So thankful for these men and their families for their sacrifice. Kyle Jones, so proud of you. So I'm guessing you know her.
Appreciate it, Bridget.
And she says thank you. And,
shout out.
Yeah. Sergeant Chad Taylor and Corporal Kyle Jones, my guests on this morning's Community Voice program. Guns, maybe illegal guns, guns associated with crimes. I'm willing to guess that I see at least 2, 3 a week, and maybe that's since COVID, and maybe even longer. I've seen a lot of crimes where a gun was used in some way. Is that accurate? Is that an accurate assumption?
I would say, yeah. I don't have the numbers in front of me statistically kind of where we are on it, but I would say that there's definitely an uptick in possession. We see a lot of traffic stops that have guns and drugs. We're seeing a lot of stolen guns right now, it seems.
The internautos, I think, is a big – internautos have went up, over the last couple of years, and I think a lot of times in your internautos, the people leave guns in their car, and that's what's stolen out of these. And then they're reported stolen, and then, 2 months later, a week later, a year later, somebody's, caught with that gun and the serial numbers ran, and that comes back stolen. So to me, I think a lot of your burglaries in your internautos, people leaving the guns in the cars, things like that, we're seeing a lot more of that with the criminal.
Yeah, and I would say locally and probably statewide. I know into Atlanta. Locally, we've had upticks. They come in waves, the internautos with gun thefts locally. But also, I saw a case come through this week. It was a drug possession with a stolen firearm, and the firearm was stolen from Atlanta. I don't know the case, but typically those are they've been internautos. People just leave their door unlocked, and they're popping the doors to go in, pulling out guns, and they're hitting the streets.
And a lot of these groups that are doing these internautos, whether it's Atlanta or they come out here, and that's what we see a lot of times. It's not really every now and then you'll have a local person who, for whatever reason, breaks in some cars. But a lot of times when we see it done professionally and very quick and they're in and out, is these crews from Atlanta that come down, target, different businesses, shopping centers, whatever it is, apartment complexes, and then they're back in Atlanta with those stolen, items within 45 minutes. But a lot of those organizations that are doing those crimes are gang related. And so then those guns end up in the hands of the gang members, the gang associates. And then they get, a traffic stop, and our officers find them, and it's reported stolen. Or they use them in crimes, because that way they can't be traced back to them. They're not going in a store and purchasing it with their name, right?
Now, a lot of times when you guys used to talk about car break-ins or thefts inside the cars, it was more of a crime of opportunity, like somebody was just coming by and flipping the handle and going there. But this is the intent. People are breaking into the cars.
Well, I would say statistically, it's path of least resistance. They just pull the door handle on because they don't want to be there long. They don't want to spend the time. But you do have the crews that have the professional punches and things like that. Mm-hmm. But I would say predominantly they're just pulling door handles. They just pull the door handle if it's unlocked. They can rummage through your car and be in and out in probably less than a minute.
As far as leaving your gun in your car, don't do that. I guess if there's somebody going into a store or something like that, you really...
Yeah, but I would say just lock the door.
Yeah, just lock the door.
Really, lock the door. Lock your car doors. That seems to be the biggest deterrent.
Sergeant Chad Taylor and Corporal Kyle Jones, our guests on this morning's Community Voice program, both with the ACE Unit and Carrollton Police. I think about 10 years ago, maybe 11 years ago, the drug that we were seeing used more, the more arrests associated with it was the crystal meth, or the meth. Yeah, I'm sorry, just the meth. And I don't know if that's the same thing or not. Crystal meth, is it really the same thing? Okay. It was a shake and bake method where they're putting things in a Mountain Dew bottle and shaking it up. And, we're talking about meth houses exploding and things like that in the woods. But, I mean, is that still as big a concern, or have they moved on to other stuff? I mean, heroin in the last 2 years or so, and, of course, the pills. We've talked a lot about that.
Yeah, meth's still a concern. I mean, we still see it. It's one of our most seized drugs that we get. We're not seeing the shake and bake bottles, the meth labs. We're not seeing that. I don't know that we've found a meth lab in the 3.5 years I've been on the ACE unit. That's kind of gone away. It's so cheap. You can buy meth in Atlanta. It's shipped over through the cartel. It's being made in Mexico in super labs and shipped over across the border. And it's cheap right now. It's a lot easier for you just to go to Atlanta and buy that meth from someone up there and bring it back here than it is to try to make it, obtain all the chemicals. There's a lot of laws and regulations on the chemicals to make meth now, where there wasn't in the early 2000s. So that crackdown has basically pushed it to Mexico for the manufacturer. But like you said, the heroin is our biggest concern now. We saw a huge uptick in heroin cases, whether it's possession or trafficking in heroin.
And overdoses.
You guys get called out to the overdoses?
We do. We at least... We do help with a lot of overdoses because it is a drug case. But I would say our uptick in overdoses is astronomical, which to the point now that we all carry Narcan. Even our officer on duty, the department provides that, which has saved countless lives. I know at one point they were doing a study for our local short stay hotels with overdoses because it seemed to be a problem, and we'd went from 9 one year to like 30 some odd the next, but our overdose deaths had went down because of our Narcan.
Yeah.
Well, we're seeing too a lot of fentanyl being laced within these drugs, and heroin's deadly. Fentanyl's just a cold-blooded killer. I mean, it's way more powerful than heroin is, and you get a few sprinkles of heroin mixed in with the dope, and that's a lot of these deaths that are coming back from the crime lab is positive for fentanyl overdose. So that's what we're trying to combat. Of course, the Narcan can combat that.
It can combat the fentanyl. I guess that's what I was going to ask. Guys, we've got about 1 minute left in the program. I was hoping to talk about the camera system that you guys have. That's I think currently at 24, and I know it's been a big help with you guys. We're talking about bringing some more.
The flock safety.
The flock safety cameras,
it's an awesome
right?
tool.
And if you think about in the city of Carrollton itself, all these restaurants and businesses, they all have a camera. How many cameras do you think are set up in the city of Carrollton?
Wow.
That can be watching this, that you guys, the business owners have to give you guys permission to use them, and they typically do, I think.
Yeah, I know that on the armed robbery at Walgreens,
right?
Flock actually helped solve the case. It identified the car, but when we identified the car, we were almost able to retrace his steps back up 27 off of business cameras and city-owned cameras all the way to about 113.
Right. Guys, thank you for coming out this morning.
Thanks for having us.
And I appreciate everybody listening to us this morning and watching us on the News Talk 1330 Facebook page. Again, this show will be up on Facebook forever, so you can go back and watch it if you missed any of it and see Kyle Jones' debut on News Talk 1330. Time right now is 8:59. Stay tuned for national headlines followed by your local news, and then Glenn Beck is on the air. News Talk 1330 FM 106.3. Have a great Wednesday, everybody.